This is Actualize Freedom, straight talk on growing clicks and conversions on Amazon FBA from people doing it every day. Now here's your host, digital marketing acrobat, Danny Kenji Carlson.
What's up, my Freedom Actualizers? So I have put together something really valuable for you. I just sent an email to all 65 plus of the past Actualize Freedom podcast guests, just asking if they could put together a special deal just for you guys with their softwares, with their courses, whatever they're offering. There's a lot of people out there who have really valuable Amazon software that we talked about. There's some courses out there that some of these courses have been made just for you guys or are 50 to 70% off. Some of them are completely free. So this is all of the best exclusive offers only for the Actualize Freedom podcast from the podcast guests themselves, from the masters themselves. So to get this, guys, just go to actualizefreedom.com. You'll see right there on the homepage where you can go and get that list. So this is exclusive offers just for the Actualize Freedom podcast listeners like yourselves from the guests themselves. So go check that out, actualizefreedom.com. What's up, guys? Danny Carlson here, and we have a very special guest with us today. We have Mr. Alex Ryan, and for all of you Aussies out there, you've probably seen this guy if you're in the Amazon FBA space. He's not too far from me over in Bali there. Australia is, the closest developed country to Bali, so we do have a lot of Australians, and I know quite a few Australian Amazon sellers out here, and it's going to be a really interesting one to dive into for finding new products, and especially when it comes to dealing with overseas suppliers. So maybe that's a good place to jump in there, Alex, is importing from China. Do you still recommend that China is the place that people should find their first products and is the best place to find your best manufacturers?
Yeah, 100%. China is where it's at. Everyone's saying it's India, but I think that's probably 5, maybe 10, probably 10 years down the line. India is going to be the new China. But I'm glad you mentioned Bali because I love Bali, and actually that's how I got started in importing. I would fly over to meet my cousin, and he was based in. He's a bit of a guru. He wakes up at 10 o'clock in the morning. He drinks all the fresh juices. He does his yoga, the salute to the sun and everything. And every 3 months I would join him in Bali, and we would rent a 20-foot container and we'd walk around and we would say 100 of those, 50 of those, 400 of those. And basically it was one supplier we dealt with who had everything Balinese umbrellas, Bali huts. You had the volcanic ash sort of Buddha statues, right? And I learned importing really through Bali. So it wasn't China that got me started. It was actually Bali. And we would basically pack this 20-foot container out, and we would really, you have to pack it really, really high and to the roof to get the most value out of doing containers. And then we would have a holiday for 2 weeks in Kuta, which is awesome. And the next time we would see the container is in the port of Sydney when it landed, and we used to sell that stuff wholesale. So actually, that's how I got started. But then I transitioned into, hold on, China is much cheaper for these particular products. You can get everything that's sort of made in Bali, the Balinese umbrellas, all that sort of stuff. It's all, it can be done a lot cheaper in China. So I started going over to China and getting better prices and better quantities, and they're a lot more flexible over there with all their ports and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's how I sort of got started. But I love Bali. It's a beautiful place. I was there like 3 years ago, and I got chased by a rabid dog.
Oh, you gotta watch
That's another
out.
story later on. Yeah, they're everywhere there. And I was walking down the street, and then this dog came up and had blood and foam and everything, and I was like, oh my god. And that was my first day on that trip on my holiday, and I ran into the closest McDonald's. So,
well, there's no shortage of excitement over here in Bali, that's for sure. Especially if you're ripping around on the roads on a motorbike, getting chased by rabid dogs.
That's right.
So how did you decide to get into that business? Was it like a friend of yours who you saw had some success and you wanted to replicate that, or a business partner? Like, how did you decide to just jump into doing something like that?
Yes, so I got my legs doing that thing with my cousin, and we brought it in, and he had a little bit of a warehouse in Byron Bay, which is where all the hippies live. And we sort of sold a lot of that retail and then wholesale. But then I teamed up with somebody else. We started a sourcing company. So if you don't know what a sourcing company is, it's one of those companies. So if you're an Amazon seller right now, and you would call me up and go, hey, Alex, I want 1,000 bicycles on my Amazon shop. in Australia or the USA, and I would be the one to make that happen. So I would jump on a plane, go to China, negotiate the best rate, find the best supply, and then ship it all to Amazon and work out, all your labels and barcodes and FNSQs and all that sort of stuff, right? So I used to do that. We had a bit of an office happening in Chengdu. We had employees over there, and I realized I did that for a while, and we did a lot. I was going back and forward, all that sort of stuff, and I was on a flight every 2 weeks. I was on a flight. Didn't really see much of the wife, unfortunately, and then I decided, well, hold on. Finding suppliers isn't that hard. Like, a lot of people can probably do this. You've got Alibaba now, you've got AliExpress, you've got DHgate, you've got Global Sources, you've got all these different websites out there where you can find really awesome suppliers. And I'm kind of like, I was sort of like, why am I, I could just tell people how to do it. If they could just find the best product, the product that's trending right now, or the product where there's not many sellers selling that particular product or profitable products, then they could just jump on these websites and do it themselves. So why do they sort of need me to do that? I'd rather just teach them how to do it. And that's how I sort of got away from the sourcing side of things, doing it for them. And I just started teaching them how to go about doing it themselves. So how to find the right product selling right now, and how to list it, on Amazon. And back then, it wasn't just Amazon was kind of new to Australia. There wasn't many people doing it. It's kind of like, sort of like, hey, this is a new thing. It's been in America, for 10 years. It's going to come to Australia soon, but you can just sell in the American store. And so back then, it wasn't really a big thing. The Amazon thing was more about eBay and selling it wholesale and setting up e-commerce. So setting up a Shopify website and selling it, on your own website. But now the last few years, Amazon's really had a huge impact on the Australian market. And now everyone, wants to sell on Amazon, and it's becoming a very trending thing to do. And just not many people out there know what to do.
Yeah, and Australia is a really interesting place, too, because it is a fairly new market, right? Like, only really within the past couple of years that Amazon expanded to Australia. So let us know, like, what does the Australian marketplace look like now? Because I'm sure there's a lot of Amazon sellers out there who, you heard that it launched a few years ago, and you're like, oh, there's no real sales volume there, so I'm just going to leave it. But has that changed now? It might be worth other Amazon sellers looking to shift some inventory over to Australia?
Oh, 100%. And that's right on the point there, Danny, because a lot of people, especially the big American sort of Amazon sellers, were thinking exactly that. We're such a small fish, that's it probably isn't worth them shifting stock over here. But now we are at it's massively emerging, right? I'm seeing advertisements, and Amazon isn't going away. That's why they are the number one company in the world. They're worth more. If you put Kmart, Walmart, Target, you put them all together, Amazon's worth 10 times all those people combined, right? I believe their net worth is something like Google and Apple put together. It's something like that. It's incredible, right? So Amazon are not in the business of giving up. So if they're going to come into a market, they're here to stay. And I'm walking around Sydney and Martin Place and Circular Quay. All I'm seeing is advertisements for Amazon. Amazon here, Prime is here, Prime Day is here. Get same day or 2-day delivery, and all there's advertisements everywhere essentially. So they're driving customers, and when customers start coming in droves, sellers come after that and going, oh, hold on, we need to fulfill this end of the market. So. So what I'm saying is Amazon is here to stay. I think there's huge potential. So if you're an Amazon seller in America or other marketplaces, there's a lot of potential in shifting stock here in Australia. You don't need to send a lot of stock. Like a lot of my clients, we actually do put 80% of our stock in the US market and other marketplaces, but we always have stock here in Australia. And there's actually some products here that are selling way more, or profit-wise, in terms of the sellers are making more in profit here in Australia than they are in overseas, because overseas is just some markets, some marketplaces, some categories are just too overwhelmed with too many other sellers selling the exact same widget. Whereas here there's fewer, so obviously there's more piece of the pie to be had. So yeah, 100%. I think it's something that a lot of Amazon sellers overlook, looking at some of the smaller marketplaces, but Amazon is going to be here to stay. And there is, there's a lot of potential, a lot of categories open in Australia. And I don't think we've really reached the full potential. I think in America, they've got teamed up with Whole Foods and all these other options there for food. We haven't really ventured into that just yet. I was I'm actually in consulting right now with the second biggest gravy brand in Australia and listing their products in the US market. And for the reason they can't do it here, they can't actually sell it here, and they have to list in the US market. So
it's illegal to sell gravy in Australia. Australians just don't like gravy for some reason. So I'm really curious to hear, what are the import regulations for importing products to Australia, right? Like each country has their own duties, tariffs, or certain regulations, and some countries are very difficult to import into. I know here in Bali, they have some really high import tariffs, so any external products here are actually really expensive, like more expensive than they would be back in the States. And it deters a lot of people from doing it because the red tape is just a lot to jump through. So how is Australia on that scale of difficulty of, how many hoops do you have to jump through? Is there like big import tariffs, and what's the state of that?
Yeah. Well, one thing I remember about Bali is if you ever want to get a steak and a glass of red wine, you need a second mortgage on your house. I remember that being so ridiculously expensive. But so in Australia, we're pretty relaxed. Like I know there's a whole thing of the Trump tax and the trade war happening right now in the States, and a lot of Amazon sellers are affected massively. You can look at the HTS schedule and you can see exactly which products are actually affected by the increase in the tariffs. But that's going to wind down soon. It's only a bit of a tit for tat. It's a bit of a dance that they're doing right now to well, it's going to end anyway. So it's already, they've frozen quite a few tariffs and lowered a few already. But with Australia, we're a little bit more, especially with, obviously, quarantined, it's ridiculous. You can't bring in plants and wooden artifacts and all that sort of stuff. But a lot of the products that my clients get involved in with Amazon, a lot of it sort of, doesn't get affected in terms of quarantine. In terms of tariffs, though, yes, there is. You still got to pay a GST. I think that came in about 2.5, 3 years ago, where suddenly everyone was buying overseas, and they chucked on now the GST, which is the extra 10%. With whatever products you get involved in anyway, some are more prone to red tape and bureaucracy than others. Like, for example, baby products, especially baby safety products, all that sort of stuff. You need extra certifications, lighting. You got to make sure that the lighting, the voltage. So if you're selling lighting equipment on the Australian market, you got to make sure everything sort of marries up. And that's why if you are jumping on the electrical side of things, we tend to say jump on USB devices. 1 second, let me show you. So we've got this is a product, perfect example, right? So this is a juicer. This is actually selling quite well on the Australian market as well as the US market. So it's a portable USB juicer, and you put your berries in there and your nuts and all that sort of stuff, and you basically put it on there and you press a button, and blend it up, right? Put your coconut milk or water in there. Now it's USB charged, right? So there's a lot less regulation around the USB. You can plug it into your computer. You can make a fresh juice in the car, right? You can actually get car jacks with this as well. But if I'm going to go on electrical, I would definitely work on something like this, because it'll fly through customs. But when you have lighting equipment coming in and you're doing lamps and all that sort of stuff, then you've got to, there's obviously, issues with that you're going to have to provide certifications on safety, and you need the supplier certificates and all that sort of stuff. Years ago, near Sydney Airport, there was all these mysterious fires happening. No one knew what happened. It's like 20 homes went up in flames, and the fire department and the police were going, "What's going on? There's an arson. Someone's going around torching these places." And what they found out, the point where it all started was these lamps, defective lamps that were being sold in some discount store. And they didn't have the certificates. They bought them in illegally, and they were defective, and that's what's causing all these fires. And that's when the government's clamped down on it and said, "Hey guys, we're going to be extra, careful to make sure that we're protecting the Australian consumers." So, but yeah, to answer your question, there are tariffs just like every other country, but there are of course also free trade agreements out there that do exist on a lot of products from a lot of third world countries like Bangladesh and a few others out there to encourage more trade and increase the economy over there. So depending on where you're buying from, we've got a lot of clients who do Bangladesh and India as well. Ever since the Trump tax came in, they've shifted their stock either to an Indian supplier or a supplier in another country, even Taiwan, who produce the same sort of product. It is a bit dodgy as well. Like there is something going along now, which is smart for the Chinese factory, is they're opening up sister companies in Taiwan, Thailand, Vietnam, that kind of thing, close by, and they're producing their goods there. Or they're producing 80% in China, sending it to Taiwan, for instance, putting a label made in Taiwan, and you're excluding the taxes. Now, that's illegal. If you get caught for that, that's actually a federal charge in the States. So we don't advise doing that at all. But yeah, there's always ways around tariffs and that. And a good story actually is a good colleague of mine years ago. He was importing shoes, and he brought these shoes in a 20-foot container. What he did to avoid the tax back then, to protect the Australian industry from overseas shoe manufacturers, is they had a massive tax. It was like 100%. So if you brought something in for $10, you would pay $10 tax, right? Just bring that in. So it's like people weren't doing it.
Brutal.
So what he did is he had two 20-foot containers. He put a whole bunch of left-footed shoes in one container and right-footed shoes in another container. He had like 10,000 pairs. And he shipped them, one to Sydney, one to Melbourne. Now, he shipped one to Sydney, and what happens when no one picks it up? No one picks up goods from the dock. What happens is they do an auction, kind of like, a police auction when someone raids a drug dealer's house and they've got the Ferrari and the Lambo and they auction everything off, right? The same thing, the customs do that. So he showed up at the auction, and there's like, okay, guys, auction, this is stock that wasn't picked up, 20-foot container containing 10,000 pairs of right-footed shoes. Can I open the bids? Anybody? And guess what? There was only one bidder. It was him. Because who wants 10,000 pairs of right-fitted shoes, right?
That's amazing.
So he picked it up. I think it was like $20. He picked up the whole 20-foot container, right? He had to pay a few costs and stuff, but he picked up this whole container of right-footed shoes. He jumped on a plane, went down to Melbourne, attended the auction down there, right? Same thing. They did the auction. 20-foot container, 10,000 pairs of left-footed shoes, right? Who wants it? Can I open the bids? Yep, $10, right? Great. So you got that, and then he sent half the container up to Sydney and half the container of right footage down to Melbourne, and suddenly he had 10,000 pairs and avoided all the taxes.
That is an incredible story. I love it.
The same thing goes in the States. There's a story. This happened many years ago. There was an importer in the States wanting to import candles. The same thing, right? And he bringing candles, there's like 100% tax tariff on it. So what he did is he imported all these. He asked the manufacturer to drill a hole in this wax, and it turned out to be a wax solid, but just a hole in the middle. And he said send the wicks separately. So tariffs walked around. It was like, the customs border control walked around. It's like, oh, hey, hold on, there's candles here. That's not in the manuscript. And it's like, oh, wait, no, not candles. That's wax balls with holes. And they're like, oh, okay. And in the box right next to it, there was wicks, right? So what he did, he didn't pay any tax. He shipped it off to one of these third-party prep companies, and they basically took the wax, inserted the wicks, sealed it, and it became candles. And that's how he avoided the tax on that. So there's always creative ways. Don't get caught.
Yeah, so it's a great entrepreneurial spirit in action there. I love that story for that. And I'm wondering, too, with Australia, is there any cultural differences or differences in strategies when it comes to, between the U.S. market and the Australian market? Because, there's both English-speaking countries, but there's probably some cultural differences. And for sure, there's, differences in, like, the way that the rankings work with less sellers and all these kind of things. So what kind of insights can you give us there?
Well, the big difference is we call, we don't, what do you guys call the thongs? You call thongs, we call them thongs, flip-flops, right? You call them flip-flops, we call them thongs.
Flip-flops.
Yeah, that's right. With all I can say, the big difference is with Amazon, what I've noticed is there's far fewer sellers over here. So there's a lot more opportunity if you are selling on Amazon to actually consider the Australian market, because there is a bountiful amount of products over here that are just not being serviced. And I'll give you an example, right? There are listings I've seen in Australia with 2 words, and they're doing 8,000 Australian a month, right? And they've got 2 words in their actual description. And the listing quality score is like 2, right? So they're doing, in terms of conversion, right, they're killing it only because no one else is supplying that product, and they're making, they're very profitable. So they're just waiting for someone who knows what they're doing, who knows how to write the good headline, do the keyword research, write good bullet points, have better images. They're just waiting for someone to come along who actually knows what they're doing to really take over some of these product listings. So there's a lot of opportunity here in Australia. There isn't a lot of sellers for some of these big products, and I think it's just something to consider for sure.
I love that too. And just for the people interested, is this a separate Amazon account? Let's say they have their Amazon US account. Are they going to have to go and apply for an entirely separate account and, provide their IDs and all that and everything all over again?
100%. Yes, you need 2 accounts, unfortunately. You do. You need you need just an email address, and you've got to provide, obviously the documents, the ID, the utility bill, that kind of thing, for sure.
Perfect. So it becomes very difficult for, you other digital nomads out there who your permanent address is different from your actual address over in another country and all that stuff. But there's always a way. There's always a way. There's these fax services that, can fax your documents over from your utility bill, and you can make it happen. That is the day and the age that we live in there. And another thing, Alex, that you're really good at is finding and sourcing products. So when it comes to the actual finding the manufacturer for the product that you found, you've identified a good opportunity, just someone with 2 words in their description, and it's just totally ripe, and now it's time to find the right manufacturer with the right price, right? So what do you think are the keys to doing that, and what are the biggest mistakes that a lot of your students are making when they're reaching out to the manufacturers or people who are just starting?
Yes, so years ago, you had to do a few other things to be bigger than you actually are, right? So I used to tell people to buy a $9 domain on GoDaddy and make it look like you're actually got an email address from a domain to be bigger, to get better prices and bigger perception, right? Fake it till you make it sort of thing. And I used to have people fabricate business cards and letterheads and all that sort of stuff to, again, be bigger. You don't really need to do that anymore, right? Because the Chinese suppliers, they're used to dealing with Amazon sellers on a daily basis. This is how Amazon has changed Alibaba and changed the world, right? Because they're used to now dealing with Amazon sellers. And Amazon sellers don't have websites. They don't need to be huge companies. They're mum and dads who are just individual digital nomads, right? And they're running their business. So you don't really need to have that perception anymore that you are a huge player. But you can still have a bit of perception. So I'll tell you what actually does count. I'll tell you what matters when you're dealing with a supplier. First of all, you jump on Alibaba, you do what we call an RFQ, which stands for request for quote. You want to get them contacting you. What I typically ask them is a few things. I say, hey guys, listen, this is the product I'm looking at. I send them a screenshot of an Amazon listing of a product that's selling really well, that I'm curious about the cost price for, and it's selling really well. So, hey guys, this is the product. I'm looking for a minimum, or I'm looking for an order of 500. Can you please send me an email? This is my email. And I would insert an email address that I would create just for this particular product. So you can create a Hotmail or a Gmail or whatever, right? Or you can have an alias, right? Because, Chinese are notorious for just spamming you products for years and years to come. And guess what? There's no unsubscribe button, right? So sometimes you want to have an alias on your Gmail account. So for example, if I'm sourcing toilet rolls or doggy poop bags, right, I'd have something like alexryan.doggypoop@gmail or something like that, just so I'm clear on what product I'm actually sourcing, what I'm interested in when they start replying to the email. So they'll start kicking back these replies, these quotes to me. And one thing I do ask them to do is I want them to send me an email to my email. For the reason is I want to check their domain name. I want to see if it's coming from a professional website, so I can check out their website to validate whether or not they are a reputable factory or trading company, right? I want to see roughly their product range. I ask them to send me images of their stock on hand. So because I want to see whether or not it matches the Amazon product that I'm interested in. All right, so I also ask them what their preferred quantity is. So I'm looking for 500, right, which I'll end up sometimes later on either taking it down or maybe increasing it depending on the price. But I ask them what their preferred quantity is, how much they prefer me to buy, and what their preferred price is as well. Okay, not what is the actual price, what is their preferred price, right? Because I always try and wiggle that down as well. They reply back to me. I'm pretty much jump on WhatsApp with them and say, hey guys, great. I've reviewed, your catalog. I love this, toilet roll, or I love these dog poopy bags, right? Now, what's your best price you can do on 500? They'll give me a price. It might be here. I'll say, great. How many can I get for 3,000? Oh, great. Yeah, we can give you a price for that. It'd be a little bit better, a better price, a lower price, right? That'd be great. Awesome. How much? Initially want to do a test run. I'm not the boss, by the way. I've got a boss somewhere else. So you never want to be the decision maker. So this is a few strategies to getting the price down lower. You never want to be the decision maker. You always want to sort of be the good cop, bad cop. Your boss is bad. You're the good one. You're the negotiator. You're the good one, right? So be like, right, awesome. The price is here. Can you give me the cost price of 3,000 for an initial test run or sample run or trial order, whatever you want to call it? Can you give me the same price, right? My boss wants to order, initially 200, but I reckon we can just go for 500. But we want to get a good price because we want to list this on our an Amazon store and run with it, see how it goes. A few other things you could do. I do this all the time. I jump on the phone to the Chinese supplier, give them a call. I've got a plan. You can call anyone pretty much anywhere in the world, unlimited. You can jump on Skype. It costs you 20 cents. Give them a call. Even if their English is broken and it isn't the bestest, still give them a call and just say, hey guys, it's my name's Alex. I'm going to send you an email later on. I'm looking to build a long-term relationship with you. I would love to work with you. I will send you an email shortly. Okay. My name is Alex, right? And usually their English is pretty good, but this is what I do anyway. I have a quick chat with them. I hang up the phone because no one does this. No Amazon seller does this, right? So instantly you stand out from the crowd. And when I send an email, it's treated with a little bit more respect, and there might be a little bit more timely on mine because we're building up trust. We're building up guangxi, right? So that's what they call it, guangxi over their face, and building up trust because they're interested in long-term business with you. They know they're going to make more money out of us and likewise out of them if we have a long-term relationship. So I'm not interested in selling one product on Amazon, selling a few units, making $50 a week. And they know they're not going to make my money out of me if I do that as well. So they want long orders over a big time span. So that's why they want to jump on the phone or jump on WhatsApp and have a chat here and there. So so I connect with them. I can send them a little gift in the mail. It doesn't cost much. I think you guys in America or in Australia, Australians, New Zealanders have no choice. I have no excuse. They can send something in the mail. It will be there in 4 days, right? I send them. I don't think I've got them here, but I've got like little koalas with little Australian flags on them, right? I send them that in the mail. I can send them all chocolates. It cost me $5, and I send it to them. I might be talking to Jessica Han or something on Alibaba. I would write her a letter, Jessica Han, put the Chinese address, send it to her, and suddenly I'll get a chat message on WhatsApp saying, "Hey, I received your chocolates today. Thank you so much." So they're really appreciative. Again, the idea of that is you want to get the best price, the lower MOQ, like the test quantities, and you want to build up the the rapport, the trust and connection. And you might be wondering, if you listen to this podcast, might be wondering what difference does that make? Like by me sending some chocolates or giving them a call. Let me tell you, right? Huge difference. We're in 22nd of November right now. So if you wanted to, let's say like 2 weeks ago, right? There's a mad rush right now to jump on the Christmas sales. Now, they might be dealing with some big American Amazon seller who has never spoken to them on the phone, never really built this rapport, never sent them chocolates in the mail, all the little things that matter, right? But they've got a big order. Because you've built this trust and connection, right? They like you more. You might end up getting a production run before they will. They might put your stuff on before the big seller. Okay, that's how the Chinese, they think backwards like that. I know it doesn't make sense from a business point of view, but that's how they think. So it does. The little things do add up. They do matter.
That's very interesting. And do you actually keep track of these kind of relationships with a CRM tool or something like that? Like, periodically I'm going to give these guys a phone call, or I'm going to send them some chocolates in the mail or something like that. Do you manage those relationships very intentionally like that?
I have an Excel document where I manage my, my chocolate sending and my phone calls. Yeah, I do actually.
You got to keep your wife in there too, right? And make sure you're sending chocolates to the suppliers, but not the wife. Then she's going to get mad.
That's right.
That's great. And do you think that Alibaba is still the best place to do so? And I'm wondering if you think there's also a place for sourcing agents for a lot of seller strategies, and in what situations would you use a sourcing agent versus Alibaba?
Yeah, there's a lot of other websites. So it isn't just Alibaba. I mean, I named a few at the beginning. There's one also called 1688.com, which is quite good. It's the Alibaba for the Chinese manufacturers, but you kind of need to be a Chinese business to be on 1688, but you get way better prices. Yeah, quick story. I know we're going off tangent here, but we had a German guy just join our team recently. He generated 1.5 million euros on Amazon Germany as part of our team. He's speaking at a conference in 2 weeks on the Gold Coast, but which is roughly 2 million Australian dollars. He basically made just in Amazon Germany, and he sourced all his products from 1688.com. So he hired someone on the ground in China to get the best price. It was like 30% cheaper than Alibaba. But yeah, there's a few more hoops to jump through. But Alibaba by far is still a preferred method because they're used to dealing with Westerners. So their English is a lot better. There are a lot of other websites out there. There's one that used to sponsor me. It's called the HKTDC. It stands for the Hong Kong Trade and Development Council. So it's really focused on Hong Kong goods or goods made. It's still made in China across the border in Shenzhen or mainland China and shipped to Hong Kong. But the hktdc.com is a good website as well. The prices are slightly higher, but the quality is actually better because it's Hong Kong standards. I wouldn't probably be trying to get anything out of Hong Kong at this point with the stuff happening there right now, though. But yeah, so Alibaba by far is, I think, a preferred website. There's a few more out there depending on if you want electronics. Global Source is pretty good, but yeah, for most products, for Amazon sellers, Alibaba is still a good one. IndiaMart.com is also, I think it's IndiaMart. They just focus on, it's like the Alibaba for India. That's quite good. But not many people know this, but there's actually an Alibaba in every other country. We've got a client now sourcing from Turkey, and he's selling his goods on Amazon Germany. And Alibaba is actually, they've got an Alibaba Turkey and an Alibaba Taiwan and Alibaba, pretty much, there's an Alibaba Australia. It's actually run by Alibaba. So there's goods, there's Alibaba USA, same thing. So if you're thinking, well, my goods are really not really made in China, or I don't want to go there, I don't want to support this, or I don't like them doing that, I don't want Chinese stuff, then there's Alibaba Taiwan and Alibaba Thailand as well. So there's a lot of preferred other websites you can jump onto.
I love it, Alex. And to wrap things up here, if there are some Amazon sellers out there who now they're interested in selling on Australia, what would be the steps for them to go through and actually make that happen? Just give us a little rundown. Like how many steps are there? Like, is this a simple process? How long is it going to take?
Yes. Okay. So we've nailed it down to roughly, like to keep things simple because most people who join us, they're beginners, right? So we nailed it down to roughly 10 steps. But top of my head, it's, first of all, you identify the niche you want to get involved in. Babies, pets, homewares, kitchen appliances, whatever niche you want to get involved in, right? So identify the niche. Next, you identify the hot seller, or you identify products on Amazon that you're interested in. You run the numbers, make sure they're actually making money, all right? So that's a big thing. Don't jump on products that are not making money. Don't jump on products that are not profitable. Okay, there's a big difference between selling a toothpick and making a buck and selling, a blender, right? The one I showed you, and making $15 per unit, right? So choose products that are profitable because it is a business. You are going to be spending time on it. You want to be rewarded for it. Then you find a supplier for it. You do an RFQ on Alibaba. You find out roughly what it's going to cost you. So you can work out your profit margins. You get a sample coming in, test it out, play around with it, put some berries in it, make a nice smoothie and enjoy yourself, right? And then place your order, all right? So when you're ready to place your order, we usually start the listing process. So you would sign up to Amazon Seller Central Australia if you haven't already done so, or America if you want to sell in America, and start working on the listing copy. Run the keywords, work on the images, get a graphic designer involved in the images, or get a photographer if you need be, and get it listed. And as soon as it's listed, as soon as the stock can start selling, monetize everything. Monetize as much as you can. Run PPC campaigns. Adopt the early reviewer program. Get as many reviews as you possibly can, and try and do it as much as you can white hat. So above board and in relation to Amazon's terms of service, because you don't want to do anything dodgy. There's a lot of people out there doing dodgy stuff, and heck, I know I used to do it, right? But then Amazon crunched down on it, and they don't want you doing that stuff anymore. If they figure it out, then you could lose your Amazon account. So you want to keep things above board, keep it nice and safe. You can still, you want to At the end of the day, you don't want to just sell something on Amazon as well. You don't want to sell a product, you want to sell a brand. So that's probably something to think about as well. Figure out what your goals are and whether you want to brand your products, and think about how can I build this into a brand empire rather than just selling, a knick-knack on Amazon. So you want to have a whole drinkware range, or, do you want to dominate other marketplaces with this particular product?
Excellent, Alex. This has definitely been the most comprehensive episode on Amazon Australia we've ever had. It is becoming a much better place to sell from the sounds of it. So thank you for enlightening us to that. And if people want to reach out to you or learn more about what you do online, where's the best place for them to do so?
Yeah, they can contact our website, www.importexportcoaching.com. That's importexportcoaching.com, or give us a call in the office 02-8003-7534. And I'm usually the one answering the phone too.
Excellent. Talking straight to the man himself. So if you want any of those links, those will be in the show notes, guys. That's at actualizefreedom.com. And if you haven't already, go leave a review. As you guys know, I cry at every review that isn't 5 stars. I literally go home and cry and eat ice cream, and it's a total mess. So make sure it's a 5-star review. And also, if you don't leave it, I get a little bit sad about myself too. I start to get really depressed. So go leave that review, guys. And until next time, guys, take care.
Thank you, Danny. Thanks so much, mate.
For show notes and resources mentioned in this episode, visit kenjiroi.com.